Remember in the late 90s, the internet was just coming of age where everyone could have access at home. And it was this brand new technology. It was going to change the way the world works, which it did. But now you hear the same exact things being used for the cryptocurrency world. And you also see, in the dot-com era, there were companies that went public or became public that were run out of their parents' basement, that had no revenues, no chance of revenues, and they got these ridiculous valuations. And then you look at crypto and you're like, well, someone created this meme, coin, and it's now worth $60 billion, right? I mean, so there's this kind of similarity where people aren't looking at what's fundamentally, important versus just, hey, it's another coin, it's going up, let's just jump on board. Same kind of thing. And, I always tell people, looking at Amazon's chart in the late, 90s, early 2000s, it was the epitome of a tech or an internet stock, but it collapsed just the same. But the big thing about it is the best will survive, right? So Amazon survived and thrived. Now it's a multi-trillion-dollar company. So I always remind people, yes, I think crypto still has more downside to go. There needs to be a washout, but the ones that survive will thrive and be worth trillions in the future. And I mean, so this is one of the interesting things about it too, is that, the internet has actually, in a weird way, proliferated this kind of, crazy hype, right? Because, before the internet, in my early years when I was in high school and before, we didn't have the internet till I was in high school, but, who were you going to pump your stock to? Your mom and dad or like your buddies at school. I mean, that was your network, right? Now you have the internet with influencers with 1 million followers, right? And they can go out and say something. And then if you see everyone, it just creates this like momentum of crazy hype. And then people do buy Dogecoin at the top. And I one of the reasons why I trust the charts so much and I rely on charts is because they're not emotional. Right? Charts will tell you when something's overbought, oversold. Oh, yeah. It is what it is. And if you follow them, you don't get caught up in the hype, trading the pops and drops over the longer term versus, the just hoping that it goes to 500,000, which eventually I do think it will do. But, for me, I did exactly the same thing yesterday. I took half of my Bitcoin position off the table going into kind of when we were in the mid 30s to low 30s. I actually had about 70% of my portfolio long cryptocurrency. And now as of yesterday, I reduced it to just 16%, 10% Bitcoin, and I have a little bit of Cardano as well. And the idea here is that I do view that we're in a bear market. I do think that we're kind of in the cycle of a bear market. And I think that, again, bounces will occur and they can be played, but you shouldn't stick around too long. And again, there's always a chance that I'm wrong. But again, looking at the cycles in Bitcoin, right? In 2009, it came out, Bitcoin emerged. The 2013, 4 years later, was the first major pop in it. Then 2017, 4 years later, here we are in 2021. So, I'm not trying to fight history. A lot of people say, well, the cycles are getting longer. Yeah, but, until proven, until we actually see it and we see the market really rip higher without a 4-year cycle, I've got to go with what history is showing me. And also keep in mind that you could make a case the cycle got a little longer because the Federal Reserve was just printing endless money. So it inflated things for a longer period. Now the Fed has told you they're taking that away, at least in the near term. So it makes sense that Bitcoin would come in a little bit.
Yeah.
But my guess is Bitcoin will bottom out probably in the second half of the year, third or fourth quarter. And it'll probably be, and I hate to say this, but probably be below 20,000 when it does, or right around 20,000, unfortunately. And again, I don't mean to be, the bearer of bad news or a bear here, but based on last cycles, you look at what the drawdown's been from the high, it's been 80+%. That actually puts us around 10,000. Now, we've never gone below the previous cycle high, so that would be something new. So for me, I'd probably start to buy in the low to 20,000 range for myself for a longer term swing trade or hold. But, you still got to think that that's going to happen. But yeah, I'm in the camp that the Fed is going to continue to tighten. Inflation is going to be an issue. Eventually, the Fed tightening will hurt the economy to the point where you're going to see unemployment rise. Their dual mandate says they have to pay attention to unemployment. So at some point, probably in like the fourth quarter, they'll start loosening monetary policy. And I think that would jive totally with the Bitcoin bottom and the beginning of the next move. Now, one thing to remind everyone is that in 2017, when it topped and it bottomed in 2018, it still took quite a while for it to make a new all-time high. So we may not see new all-time highs on Bitcoin till like 2024, 2025 even. But I do